Welcome to the Out of Bounds podcast. I'm John Luck with Mary Evers, and we're joined today by Brian Berard, one of the original hosts of the show. Now has his own podcast. I think trying to do a competition with us. It's called What's This? We'll talk about What's This later on.
Yeah, we will.
But if you're watching right now, you see Mary's wearing the Manchester United uniform. Brian's wearing the Manchester City kit. That's because we're leading off with talk of this Super League that went away quicker than the AAF.
Yeah.
This was spearheaded by John Henry, the owner of the Red Sox, also the owner of Liverpool. But shortly after, about 48 hours after people around the world were outraged at this idea, teams started to pull out, including Man City, Man U, and just about everybody else. So, Brian, I'm going to start off with you because you know a lot more about soccer than I do. I know Mary knows soccer as well, but starting off with you, can you just talk about what this Super League idea initially was and if it could have actually worked?
Yes. So thank you for having me, the person who knows the most about this, come on and
Thanks, John.
offer some expertise. I really do appreciate it. So really, basically, the idea of the European Super League was to create a league of its own, and the top 6 teams in England, the top few in France, in Spain, in Italy, were also going to join in. So the big 6 in England was, as John mentioned, the City, United, Liverpool, Chelsea, Tottenham, and Arsenal was going to be the 6th team. And Barcelona, Atletico Madrid, Real Madrid was going to join from La Liga. I think Atalanta and Juventus was going to join from Serie A, and Paris Saint-Germain was going to join from France. And there was still a few other teams that were up in the air, but no one from Germany was going to join. Munich didn't want to join. Dortmund didn't want to join, which was good. And they were just going to create their own Super League, not in addition to the Premier League or Serie A or La Liga, literally create their own league. And as you said, John, within 48 hours, it was born, and it died of the backlash from the fans. And I saw on Twitter, a lot of American fans loved the idea because it was supposed to mimic like professional leagues here, where it was going to be 15 set teams year in and year out, whereas in European soccer, there's the promotion and relegation system, and everyone loves that idea, but they wanted to really create like an American type of league. That's why John Henry from Liverpool was going to really spearhead this. Stan Kroenke from Chelsea was also a member of this too. It was the American owners really of European soccer that wanted to create this. And look, I know like we throw around the word hate like as a joke, like, oh, I hate you, I hate this. And I mean this all seriousness. European fans hate, and I mean hate, when Americans own their teams. Mm-hmm. And now they're like, Americans are here to ruin soccer, even though it's a sport that Americans don't care about. And I think they really wanted to create this to appeal to Americans, because the one good thing was like, hey, we get to see Liverpool and Juventus play on twice a year now, instead of maybe every year in Champions League if the matchup is right, or we get to see PSG and Man City, which is actually the Champions League semifinal this year. But that was the one good thing. But that still, those matchups were going to be watered down so bad if you're going to see them twice a year. And everyone was so outspoken about this. And I just have to throw this in there. Man City was the first team to pull out. So just wanted to get that.
Was it? I thought Chelsea was, because I saw Chelsea before City.
No, City was actually the first one to pull out.
All right. Well, I believe you.
Anyways, it was pretty much they wanted to create this league, and it was based off of one thing and one thing only, and that was greed. They just wanted money. They wanted the ratings, have their own TV deal, so on and so forth. And I think the fans that were probably the most upset about it were City fans, because for years, City was in fights with UEFA, and UEFA is the governing body of European soccer. Every region in the world has a governing body. So here in the North America, it's CONCACAF is the governing body of North and Central American soccer. But City has been fighting with UEFA for years for fair play. And City, I think, is the prime example of how a small club can really become a massive club. And they wanted to go off to the Super League and because of money. And it's like, really, like this whole time you've been fighting because you're a small club, and now all of a sudden you make it to the big time and you're just like, all right, sorry, see you later.
Right. Yeah. I think that's one of the best things I feel about European soccer is the relegation system. And I've always thought that was one of the more interesting aspects of sports over there, as opposed to sports here, because we don't have anything that's like that here. And despite the fact that me and Brian are both fans of teams that were going in off into this European Super League, it's fun seeing these small teams kind of come up out of nowhere and make themselves important in the league. So that I feel like that's one of the big issues coming from the I don't know really what the reactions were in Spain and France and Italy, but from what I can gather from English fans, it was they weren't happy with anything that was going on. And I'm not just talking about the fans of the teams that weren't involved, but the fans of the teams that were involved weren't happy. The players of the teams involved weren't happy, because a lot of these clubs were built up by working class people when the league started. And now you have a lot of the times American billionaires coming in here and kind of taking over and changing European soccer the way they think is best. And a lot of people were upset by that, which is fair. I mean, when I first heard about it, it was kind of whisperings last week. I was seeing a little like stuff on Twitter. ESPN was like saying things about it every once in a while last week. I was watching the United match Sunday morning, and the announcers were talking about it. It was like, oh, the Premier League says this isn't happening. Like they have no idea what's going on here. And then I was Brian that told me that it became official on Sunday night, which I was like, I didn't see it coming at all. I really didn't. And like you said, it lasted 48 hours, because yesterday I was on Twitter and I was like, oh, there we go. Everyone's suddenly leaving. And then United's chairman stepped down or was forced out, depending on who you ask the question to, and they pulled out. And then interestingly enough, when we talked about John Henry last night after the Red Sox game, Xander Bogaerts came out with a Liverpool shirt on and was like, you got to keep soccer or football the way it is over there. And I was like, well, if now Xander Bogaerts is literally speaking out against his own owner, even though it's not his team that's affected. So this is just bad publicity for everyone involved. And James Corden did a 6-minute long segment that was really good on the Late Late Show a couple nights ago, that I enjoyed thoroughly. And I shared on my Twitter page the other night. And he was like, I know you Americans don't care, but this is terrible and it's going to ruin our sport, was kind of the gist of the conversation. And I thought it was very well put, better than I could ever put the situation, for sure.
So here's the thing too about James Corden. Like, this is a guy that will never say anything to offend anyone.
I know.
And he just ripped this thing to shreds. Mm-hmm. And here's another thing too, and I'm going to warn you, I'm going to get loud here. Okay. This part actually is, I think it's the funniest part. And Mary, I know you can attest this. FIFA is easily the most corrupt governing body in sports. Like, everyone bribes their way to host the World Cup, and UEFA, which is the governing body, is also a very corrupt organization. And when FIFA has the moral high ground, if FIFA says that you messed up and the world agrees with them, you messed up. Right. If FIFA we're talking about, Sepp Blatter, the guy who runs it, just takes money left and right. If he says you messed up and people agree with him, you messed up badly, because FIFA came out and said, if you do this, your players aren't going to be able to play in the World Cup. And UEFA said same thing. You're not going to be able to play in the League of Nations. So imagine a World Cup without Messi or Ronaldo or De Bruyne or Pogba or Mbappe or De Gea. Like, imagine the World Cup without, or Christian Pulisic. Imagine the World Cup without these players. It's like, cool, we're going to see like Zimbabwe playing in the final against Ivory Coast or whatever. And it's like, the fact that FIFA had the moral high ground here shows you just how horrible of an idea it was.
I mean, if that were to happen, though, at least like the men's American team might have a shot of making the World Cup.
Here's the thing, they wouldn't, because Pulisic would have been out and Serginho Dest would have been out.
I forgot they were American. My God.
My question here is, how do these owners continue to operate? I mean, we talked earlier before the podcast, Kroenke, Henry, Glazer, American owners owning teams that would have been in the Super League that now have to essentially go crawling back as far as ownership goes. But how do these owners continue to operate? Because I don't know how funding is exactly conducted over there for the soccer teams. But if I'm someone that, tries to sell stuff through Liverpool or Man U, I'm kind of looking at this a little cross-eyed, because you just tried to pull out my team that I've been supporting for so long. Why am I going to continue to give you money? Because let's be honest, I think part of the Super League has to do with the pandemic and the fact that there was a shutdown for the year plus. So these owners are trying to recoup money, but teams like Liverpool, Man U, Arsenal, I think is the one Kroenke owns. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think they're worth what, $4.5 billion. So they don't have to recoup money.
They're easily in the top 10 like most wealthy sports franchises in the entire world. And right before we jumped on here, I was reading the Glazer statement from that they put out via United social media pages, and it was literally the most, I clearly didn't write this, my PR people wrote this, which, not for nothing, if their PR people were any good, this would have been stopped weeks ago and not after they already came out with it. And it was exactly what you said. It's, the pandemic, and we want to evolve what European soccer is like, and we want it to become sustainable. And I was like, I don't know why, like, is the Premier League not sustainable to you? Like, I know that all these clubs were going through financial issues because of the pandemic, but in my own opinion, and, obviously I'm an American and not in England, and I've only been a fan of soccer for the last like 5 or 6 years or so. I didn't know the Premier League was in such issue that they decided that they had to just take their teams out. And I don't think it actually is. Right, exactly. So it was just a load of absolute bullshit that was coming out of this statement.
Oh, language.
Sorry. It's a podcast. We can say whatever we want.
That's right. You can put that a little E next to it. Okay. Yeah, yep. I can see that.
So
no, but go ahead, John.
I was going to say, I have part of that statement you were talking about, Mary, from Joe Glazer, and the vanilla statement, and the same thing from John Henry, starting off with Glazer saying, although the wounds are raw, and I understand that will take time for the scars to heal, I am personally committed to rebuilding trust with our fans and learning from the message you delivered with such conviction. We continue to believe that European football needs to become more sustainable throughout the pyramid for the long term. However, we fully accept that the Super League was not the right way to go about it. And then John Henry made some paid infomercial at Fenway Park overnight saying, it goes without saying, but should be said, that the project put forward was never going to stand without the fans. No one ever thought differently in England. Over these last 48 hours, you were very clear that it would not stand. We heard you, I heard you, and I want to apologize to Jurgen, Billy, to the players, and to everyone who worked so hard at LFC to make our fans proud. They have absolutely no responsibility for this disruption. They were the most disrupted, and unfairly so. This is what hurts most. They love their club and work to make you proud every single day. I know the entire LFC team has the expertise, leadership, and passion necessary to rebuild trust and help us move forward. Now, hopefully, after this statement, we get something a couple days later saying that John Henry won't be at any of these games, because if he shows his face at Liverpool soccer matches, that's going to be something to watch. You want to see what Fenway Park would be like if John Henry was there? Just magnify that by about 50, I think.
Yeah, there's nothing more like extremely contentious than being in one of those stadiums. Like they separate their fans there because it gets ugly, especially with these big rivalries, and there are a lot of big rivalries within those English clubs that joined the Super League rather. And so you're right. If he shows up there at all, he's so screwed. And we've been complaining about John Henry basically all year because of Red Sox stuff, and this man just keeps working harder and harder to be clearly one of the most disliked ownership groups in the world now, not even just in the US.
Yeah, and the thing is too, it had this gone through, like, obviously the Premier League would have not been killed, but severely watered down. Like UEFA's Champions League is probably the most recognized Champions League in the world. Like, it's the most popular Champions League. That would have been watered down. I mean, the funny thing is too, is you had players from Leeds United when they were playing Liverpool with some shirts that said football is for the fans and you have to earn it. And actually Leeds United had quite little streak. They beat City and then they drew with Liverpool. But that's a different story for a different podcast, because I don't think you care about Leeds United football here. But I mean, if you're a Red Sox fan, you should be aggravated at this. You should be aggravated with this ownership group, because remember, this is the ownership group that did not want to pay Mookie Betts, and now he is making Gold Glove plays for the Dodgers in center field, And you mean to tell me that this ownership group didn't want to pay for him, yet they don't mind making more money off of Liverpool, which is an absolute freaking cash cow right now across the world. It's one of the most famous football clubs in the world. And you want to destroy any tradition that they have. And you mean to tell me that you want to make more money off of that, and you still couldn't pay Mookie Betts, a fan favorite MVP? The guy won you a World Series pretty much, and you don't want to pay him. But God damn it, you still want to make more money off of Liverpool. Yeah. This is the thing that I think John Henry really should do, and Fenway Sports Group, sell Liverpool. I don't think they could ever show their face in the country of England ever again. Like this, they have to sell that club, and I know they won't. But they have to do some serious PR moves. And that 2.5-minute Twitter video that he put out like last night certainly didn't do any favors with Liverpool fans, because they absolutely hate John Henry. And like I said earlier, they hate when Americans own their clubs. But the best thing for John Henry to do is to sell Liverpool, but he'll never do that.
No, he somehow made it so that the most liked member of Fenway Sports Group now in Boston is going to be LeBron James.
Yep.
How is that? No one, but it's true though. That's what's going to end up happening. He's going to try to use the fact, and obviously this has been in the works for months, and probably around the same time that LeBron James was completely joining Fenway Sports Group and not just part owner of Liverpool and becoming part owner of the Red Sox, he had to have known about this, because there's no way John Henry didn't tell him, because it concerned Liverpool. So you can't sit here and tell me that John Henry didn't see this opportunity to be like, we might get a lot of shit for this, so we're going to bring in LeBron James to make him be the face of this organization now, so that when I'm inevitably getting egged in the street, I have someone else to send out to do all my bidding for me.
And the worst thing is too, like the players and managers they were caught off guard by this, and like when Liverpool was going to play Leeds United, and the few players sitting there, and Jurgen Klopp just has the face like, really, like, you think I really had a say in this freaking thing? And then the media is peppering them, and they're like, I don't even know, like, this was something that was completely off of my radar, and you just threw them to the wolves. It was horrible.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And it goes for every single team that was involved with this didn't seem to know anything that was going on. And of course, this weekend, that was all the questions that they were getting during their matches was about like, what's going on here? And they're all like, I don't know.
And the thing is too, like, the biggest question I have is, why is Arsenal even a part of this? Like, Arsenal effing blows. Like, they're in like 10th place. They're like, I don't even know why they're in there.
I don't know. I couldn't tell you. I just, like, it made sense for me when I was reading. I was like, obviously both Manchester teams, obviously Liverpool, Chelsea makes sense. And you're right. Arsenal didn't really make sense to me. Because you would think Arsenal would take this opportunity and be like, oh, with them gone, we could actually be good in the Premier League.
It's kind of like a lesson in PR 101, how this is going on with the Super League. And I don't watch a lot of soccer talk, but I've been listening to and watching Sky Sports and how they've been covering this.
Yeah.
Oh, it's like Stephen A. Smith times 3 over there at the talk of John Henry and the Super League. And I mean, they're angry people to start off with.
Well, here's the funny thing. Like, Sky Sports is the reason why we have a Premier League. Like, they're the ones that wanted all this greed, and they wanted the money, and they wanted these TV deals. So that's why they created the Premier League back in the 90s with them. And now NBC has all this.
Sky Sports is so interesting. Like, their take on American sports has always interested me. Like, when I was living in England during the Patriots Falcons Super Bowl, and they had their own. So you could hear the American broadcast with the announcers, but they were doing almost like a director's cut where their announcers were speaking over the American announcers, and they had Ndamukong Suh in the studio to talk about it. It was like literally the strangest sports viewing experience I've ever seen in my life. It seems like they're always trying to do things that are like, kind of be edgy, but I don't know if I like it, but it's very interesting.
Troy Aikman, Ndamukong Suh.
It's same broadcast.
But a seamless transition as we go from football to football, and the NFL draft coming up next week. The New England Patriots picking 15th as of now. Of course, that can change. But starting off, what position should/will the Patriots draft first with their first round pick, Mary?
Everyone wants them to draft a quarterback. I don't know if there's going to be any quarterbacks worthwhile at 15 if they stay there. Obviously, if they trade up, that's a different story. And this is Bill Belichick, so I'm not super excited to see him draft any offensive players in the first round. So, and you know, oh, they need to draft a quarterback. Like this is an issue. Jared Stidham's not going to be the guy going anywhere forward. Like he might play at some point this season, but he's not going to be the guy that you continue your franchise with. And obviously, I don't think any of us will say that Cam Newton's going to be that guy either. So they need to draft somebody. I don't think that it'll be this year though, unfortunately. But the problem is like if with all these offensive weapons that Belichick is signed, he's obviously planning to do better next year than he did last year, which means they'll have a lower draft position. So I really don't know what to do for them because while they desperately need a quarterback, I don't trust them picking one this year. So I'm hoping that they pick defense. Because it's so safe for Belichick to pick defense in the first round.
It's what he's been built on for close to 40, 50 years.
And I don't know if playing it safe is the best option, but for me, I think that might be your best option this year.
I mean, I might throw my remote through the TV if they draft Trey Lance from North Dakota State with the 15th pick, but that's just me personally. I think they should go for an offensive player like a quarterback or a wide receiver. But in my heart of hearts, I kind of agree with you, Mary, and the fact that Bill Belichick's going to stick with the defensive side of the ball. And I mean, lineman is a place that they really need to address. Mm-hmm. I'm not really impressed with their lineman depth chart, but I've been looking at a few of the mock drafts we'll talk about in a little bit. But Micah Parsons from Penn State actually intrigues me as a linebacker. Dante Hightower, you don't know how he's going to look coming back off of that year off in 2020, and Chase Winovich. I don't know if they're trying to convert him to a linebacker or an edge rush, but I think Micah Parsons is probably the safest and the best pick. But I mean, who knows what Bill Belichick's going to do? He let his dog pick the first pick last time.
Hey, Nike did a good job of that.
Yeah, he got Kyle Duggar, right?
Yeah, he did. Yeah, that's what they're going to do. They're going to trade back, pick up a couple more D2 kids and go with it there.
Let me get this straight. John says, I want them to draft a quarterback. But then he lists and says, if they draft this quarterback, I'm going to throw my remote through the TV. So what is it do you want, John? Do you want the QB or do you not want a QB?
He just doesn't want that QB.
Yeah, there's like
beggars can't be choosers. Look,
you can get a choice.
Look, if they draft Trey Lance, I would love that pick. I love Trey Lance. And I know, look, he played at North Dakota, in FCS level, okay? And look, he doesn't have a lot of experience, he doesn't have a lot of exposure, I should say. I would love if they drafted him, a kid that has something to prove. And I think Belichick, remember the last QB that he had? I'm drawing a blank. He drafted this kid in the 6th round in 2000 and really wanted to prove
I'm sure that was the 6th round in the mock draft. Yeah.
Hold on, stop. I'm talking, John, all right? I'm the expert. You bring me on. I'm talking quiet. They brought on this kid from 2000. John, half your body's missing. That's perfect. If only your brain was gone in that shot too, then maybe a lot of things would have made sense. But I think the last time that Belichick had a quarterback that really wanted to prove people wrong. Oh, remember? Jimmy Garoppolo too. They wanted to, and then that's right. He did some pretty good stuff too. And before they traded him because Rob Kraft made him trade him. I'm pretty sure that Belichick does good with quarterbacks that wanted to prove something. And I know, look. I know Cam Newton's here. He wants to prove something, but I think Cam Newton has proven that he can't throw the ball. And there's some monsters, and I mean monster offensive linemen. Mary, you talking about offensive linemen that they want him to draft, and John said that as well. There are monster offensive linemen, and we saw Cam Newton can't get the ball over their heads. All right, so obviously the Patriots need to draft a quarterback at 15. Okay, and if it's Trey Lance, give me Trey Lance. All right. If it's Trask from Florida, give me him. I need a quarterback that can throw the effing ball for the Patriots.
Yeah, no, I agree. I just honestly can't sit here and say that I know enough about Trey Lance to tell them to draft that because I'm not watching North Dakota State play football. I'm barely watching Alabama play football. So I don't know very much about him, but I'll take your word for it.
Gee, thank you.
You're welcome. It's not often I agree with you, okay? So just take it while you can.
Now, if they're able to move up and make some trades, do you want the Patriots to go ahead and burn some of the draft picks for future years in hopes of finding the next guy? If it is a Trey Lance or if it's a Mac Jones or, quarterback ABC, do you want the Patriots to go ahead and trade draft picks in 22, 23, 24 to go ahead and move up the board for this year?
Absolutely, I would love that.
Yeah.
And here's why, because the Patriots suck at drafting. So might as well get those opportunities out of the way. Trade those things, and then you maybe move up. This is going to be the strongest QB draft class maybe in a long, long time here in the NFL.
Right.
So why not trade future mistakes away?
Yeah, exactly. Not only that, but 9 times out of 10, he's just going to draft out of the first round. Trade out of the first round anyways to get more picks in the 3rd and 4th round. So why even bother waiting? If you can get someone that you really believe in, that you can actually set your team up for the future, yeah, get rid of them. I don't care. If you want to throw in a player in there, even go for it.
So I'm looking at the teams that are ahead of the Patriots right now as far as draft order goes. Starting from 14, you got Minnesota, the Chargers, the Eagles, the Giants, Cowboys, Broncos, Panthers, the Lions, Dolphins, Bengals, Falcons, 49ers, Jets, and Jaguars picking first. Out of those teams, I don't know who would ever trade with Bill Belichick, because I think there's kind of that concern. Do you really want to be that team that trades down in the draft so that the Patriots can move up, get the player that they want, and who knows, go on another Super Bowl run or two? Do you want to be that team responsible for aiding the Patriots and getting back into one of the top spots in the NFL?
If it helps my team, yeah. Cool. Like, I think this Patriots mystique that we've been hearing about for 20 years is slowly dying off. If you get the right players in the right package, sure, go for it. If it's going to make my team better, I don't care if I'm helping the Patriots become a better team. Look what they had last year. All right. They were below 500. Okay. Like, everyone knows that the Patriots want Jimmy Garoppolo. Everyone knows that. And they know if Patriots can get Jimmy Garoppolo, this is a team that you're going to have to watch out for. But I don't care if I'm a team that's like, the Patriots mystique, get out of here with that. The Patriots mystique was Tom Brady. Okay.
Right.
And Tom Brady, last time I checked, is a Tampa Bay Buccaneer. Okay. So if it's the right package, sure, go for it.
All right, Brian, you kind of talked about this a little bit before, but Mary, are you scared off by a player who had a alter 2020 season? Trey Lance is the top of that discussion. We know Brian is all in on Trey Lance to the Patriots. How do you feel about that?
Everyone had an altered season in 2020. And you can say what you want about how many games were played and what conference you were playing in or whatever, but no one had a good 2020 season in any sport at any level. It's just because of everything that was going on in the world. It was all strange. And so I don't put that up as a compare. Like, I don't think you could use that to compare him against other quarterbacks, because they all had issues with this past season. Now, you're someone like Trevor Lawrence, who's most likely going number 1 in the draft, who has been a starter for so long that you can say, oh yeah, like 2020 was bad. He got COVID. He missed a couple of games, what have you. But he's been a starter for a long time. Most of the time, you can't say that about college quarterbacks. They don't normally start for 3 full seasons before they get drafted. So, with the exception of Trevor Lawrence, I really wouldn't use that to compare against other quarterbacks in this draft.
I still take it as a red flag, the fact that Trey Lance played 1 game. I know that I'm in the minority on this one. The fact that he went 15 for 30 with 150 yards, a couple of touchdowns, and an interception in 1 FCS game. It just kind of raises more red flags to me. I think there's more quarterbacks in the draft that you can go to that maybe have a better impact. Maybe it's not in the first round. Maybe it's going to be in rounds 2, 3, 4, 5. The Patriots obviously can find some of the good quarterbacks in some of the later rounds. So I think if Trey Lance is on the Patriots' big board, I think you maybe look somewhere else and maybe hope that you can find a better option somewhere else. That's just me. And I know that I'm not going to be in the popular opinion on that one.
So here's the thing. John's going to focus on 1 game. Let's forget the multiple national championships that he's won. Let's focus on this 1 game that North Dakota State scheduled, the 1 game in the fall. Let's forget the national titles. Let's focus on the 1 game that North Dakota State scheduled, because they didn't want to play a full schedule in the fall. They did in the spring, but he wasn't going to play in that. But let's blame him because of the 1 game that the school wanted to schedule. I'm not blaming him.
I'm just saying that's a red flag.
But forget the national titles, right?
I'm not blaming him. I'm just saying, look at that. What's the
Yeah,
last
well,
season?
cool. You can look at that one game. I'll look at the national championships.
Okay, we'll see Trey Lance when he gets cut by a team after training camp. All right.
Fighting words, guys. I'm sitting here like I know nothing about this kid. I really don't.
All right,
Who the hell watches North Dakota State play football? I'm sorry.
People desperate for football viewing.
Fair enough.
So there are mock drafts that come out every year from a lot of people, and I did some research in what some of the people are saying. So Ryan Wilson from CBS Sports goes along with Brian's thinking, saying Trey Lance being drafted first by the Patriots. Chris DePrazzo, also from CBS Sports, saying Mac Jones. Josh Edwards saying Micah Parsons. Mel Kiper saying that the Patriots are going to do some fancy maneuvering here, trading up to pick number 7 and drafting Mac Jones. So is there anybody in that list of mock draft picks that you look and say that's probably the best option? Right now, Mac Jones is a small majority, getting a small majority of the picks.
Here's the thing about Mac Jones, and I want you to tell me, when was the last time an Alabama quarterback was successful in the NFL? It's been a long time. Yeah. All right. And here's why. They're always throwing to top 10 NFL draft picks. All right. They're like Devontae Smith and Waddle are phenomenal players. Okay. And I'm not trying to take anything away from Mac Jones, but when you're throwing to 2 top 10 picks, your life's going to be super easy. Okay. I am not on this Mac Jones train like a lot of people are. And I know that there is a lot of people out of the Patriots camp that are, and I'm pretty sure the reason why they're doing it. And I don't think the Patriots want to draft this kid. I think they want to do it so that someone else drafts this kid. So someone else falls to them at 15. I'm not on the Mac Jones train. Now, look, if I could have my choice of any QB, I would love to have Trevor Lawrence with Bill Belichick, but I know that's a pipe dream. But that's never going to happen. Although maybe not this year, but this is the Bill, the mindset of Bill, is going to make sure that Lawrence does horrible for a few years in Jacksonville and pick him up in the free agent market because that's the Bill, the mastermind.
But how long is Bill staying around to actually get this plan off the ground? And also, not for nothing, Bill Belichick looked the least impressed I've ever seen him at Mac Jones Pro Day. I don't think Bill Belichick is going anywhere near Mac Jones, even if he is still available at 15.
Let me throw this player out here because I think it may be an interesting fit. Brian, let me know how you feel about this. But what about Kellen Mont from Texas A&M?
Look, so Mont has a great arm at A&M and played in the SEC. I mean, I wouldn't mind the pick, but I'd still prefer Trey Lance over him. And because I think that McDaniels and Belichick can do something with a little bit of a mobile quarterback. And I know Mont can be too, but I just think that Lance has more of the ability out of the two QBs because Mont is, I'm pretty sure, a much bigger kid than Trey Lance. But, he's going to be a kid just like him and Trask from Florida. They're probably going to be dropping second, third, fourth round. So if the Patriots don't go with the QB at 15, you're probably looking at one of those two guys in the secondary or mid rounds, I should say.
There's names like Mont being tossed around, Book being tossed around. Chase Ellinger could be a sneaky pick for the end of the draft, but to me, if they don't go with a quarterback at 15, I think you're right. They're going with someone like Mond on the end of day 2, maybe start at day 3.
Yeah, sorry.
I was going to say, don't go with Ian Book out of Notre Dame. Just don't. No, bad choice. It's not going to work out for you. It's just, if it's going to fail.
You say that just as a BC
Notre
fan
Dame
or
quarterbacks?
I'm just saying Ian Book, not Notre Dame quarterbacks. Ian Book.
All right. Fair enough. I agree. What I was going to say was the top quarterbacks that everyone's speaking about for the beginning of the draft are not the only quarterbacks in the draft. And I think people keep forgetting that. And like you said, I wouldn't be terribly surprised if they end up waiting till the second or third round to draft a quarterback. Cause I do believe that there will still be some options left on the board at that point. I just don't which is, I think what I might be able, I might prefer because I don't know. I think, like you said, Brian, Bill Belichick does better with people that are willing to prove themselves and put in a lot of hard work. So, and I really just don't trust them picking someone that is already full of themselves because they've been being talked about for the last 6 months about being some of the first couple quarterbacks to go in the first round. So I'm going to stick with they draft defense in the first round and then a quarterback in 2 or 3.
I will say this real quick. I wouldn't mind if they draft Kyle Trask out of Florida. That guy slings it.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know why he doesn't get as much attention as some of the other quarterbacks. Like, I'm not going to sit here and wait, what were you going to say?
I was gonna say he doesn't necessarily make the smartest decisions with the football. So
Right. But with a coach like Bill Belichick, and if you're willing to prove yourself, and Josh McDaniels, you might be able to fix that a little bit that you wouldn't be able to get in Florida. Though not for nothing, the Patriots and their draft picks from Florida don't always have the best track record.
whoa.
I'm just throwing it out there. That's all.
Dropping some truth here on the podcast. Let's go from the Patriots to the Boston Bruins, and they had their goalie back, Tuukka Rask, played well in net against the Buffalo Sabres, the start of a 3-game road trip, all in Buffalo for some weird reason. But Mary, now that Tuukka Rask is back, does this change how the Bruins maybe handle the development of Swayman? Because he was the big hot goalie for the Boston Bruins. Does this kind of change how they continue to develop him in the final few games?
Okay, my issue with you saying that Tuukka Rask did so well last night, besides that one monster save that he made, any goalie in the league does well against the Buffalo Sabres. Like, that really does not prove that Tuukka Rask is playoff ready. And I'm sorry, I know there are a lot of Tuukka fans out there that believe that he's, the best goalie in the league, and maybe he might be, but I don't see I'm not putting all of my bread in that basket just yet. However, I think that the person that's going to be shit out of luck here is Halak. I think what's going to happen is, even when he's ready, and he traveled with the team this week, so he must be at least somewhat close to ready. He's cleared protocol, obviously. I think that Cassidy's going to end up sticking with Swayman as a second goalie because, one, this is this is supposed to be the goalie of the future anyways, and he's shown that he's more ready than you probably thought he was earlier on, because he was fourth on the depth chart at the beginning of this year, and suddenly he's come and had some pretty impressive games against some pretty decent teams. So while Rask is back, and I'm still kind of holding my breath about whether or not he's really back and he's going to be able to play as well as he did, say in the 2019 Stanley Cup run. I don't think he will, but I don't think him being back is going to be a detriment to Swayman, because I think Swayman's going to end up taking Halak's spot as a number 2 goalie.
I would concur with that. I think you're 100% right that Halak's going to be the odd man out, and I think it's a lot of it's going to have to be for money as well, because when you're paying Swayman this Providence Bruins contract, it's going to be a little bit less than Halak. And of course, and Swayman, somewhat local kid, played at Maine and Hockey East, and I think it's good to have him around. I mean, he's a very viable backup goalie, but so isn't Yaro Halak too. I mean, Halak's been one of the top 5 goalies in statistical categories, not maybe like overall, but statistical categories. He's been a top 5, top 10 goaltender. But I mean, I don't mind leaving the kid on the roster here. I mean, I know the Bruins aren't going to win the Stanley Cup anyways. So, I mean, but it's cool to get some postseason experience for the kid. I mean, I don't know what else you need to do to develop him at this point. I mean, I think he's shown that he can be a legitimate NHL goaltender. I think the issue really comes down, and I don't think they're going to do it, but I think the issue comes down to it this offseason is what to do with Tuukka Rask. I mean, if you really do like Swayman, and if you do like Vladar, what do you do with Tuukka Rask? And that's the big issue, because I think Tuukka Rask is one of those players, you either are team Tuukka or get Tuukka out of Boston. All right. You fall into one of those two categories.
Yeah, and I also, one thing to look at is, do you like Swayman enough to put a protection on him for the expansion draft? Because
absolutely.
Right. Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, I'm saying, like, they're going to have to use, the Bruins have so many good players, and a lot of them are younger that are probably going to be around for a while, and, a limited amount of protections. And I say that if they're going to use only one for a goalie, it's going to be on him and not Rask.
I think this comes down to finances, like Brian was talking about. If you have your choice between having someone like Tuukka Rask that you're going to pay a buttload of money for, or a Swayman who's still on his Providence Bruins contract and at worst it's going to come in at a very cheap cost, I think you go with Swayman for the long run here. And you're already kind of making that transition from the old days to the new days here. You're just kind of waiting for everybody to kind of continue filtering out as far as Krejci and Marchand and Bergeron go. So I think you're kind of making that youth movement. And if you're not going to win the Stanley Cup this year, I think you go ahead and say, you know what? Thanks for the memories, Tuukka. Adios.
Yeah.
Well, here's the thing though, like I know it's like, and I don't think they're going to do it. I think you still keep Tuca though. I mean,
Oh yeah.
I mean,
For
I
the
know
rest of
a
the
lot of people want to
sure.
get rid of him, but like
Yeah.
you have to keep him because like, what if Swayman does get into a funk? You're gonna. I mean,
Mhm.
if you're getting rid of Tuca, you're really gonna keep Halak. Like Halak's like really, fine. I'll back up Tuca Rask, but I'm not gonna back up some kid that you're
Right.
pulling out of Providence. So Halak would be gone. And it's like, you're gonna rely on Vladar, who has shined, but like we saw in that
Mhm.
bubble. It got ugly. And I know it's
Yeah.
because the defense really didn't give two craps in front of them sometimes.
Mhm.
So like you have to keep Tuca though. You have to keep Tuca.
Yeah, that's why for sure Halak is the odd man out, as well as he's played for you, and it just you don't want to see yourself in a position where you say screw you to the rookie and end up in a spot when Tuca does leave without one. So I think Halak has to be the odd one out at this point.
My question to you is, would Tuukka Rask accept being a backup?
No. He would be just like last season. He'd be gone in 5 seconds. He'd be like, "Oh, sorry, I got a thing. I got a tea time in Weymouth, so I gotta go."
I will say one thing that works out for the Bruins as far as trying to get Swayman some more time as the season winds down here is the fact that there's only 3 back-to-back games left. So
Yeah.
if you have Swayman in there for one of the back-to-back games and you have him in there for a couple other spot starts here, that gives Tuukka Rask the time he needs to continue to work his way back because I mean, you're facing the Sabres, okay, but then you eventually face the Penguins, the Devils, who you've had a difficult time with all season, and you end the season with the Islanders and the Capitals back to back, and who knows what's going to happen as far as playoff position goes.
Right, and I would assume that we're going to see Swayman at least once, maybe twice, in the Buffalo games coming up.
So, what was it? This past Sunday, the Bruins took on the Washington Capitals. Were you impressed by what you saw? Because the first period they were going back and forth, but then starting in the second period, I don't know if Bruce Cassidy had like a miracle speech or something, but the team just turned it on in the second and third periods.
Yeah, and I think a lot of that has to do with just the additions that they made at the trade deadline. They've definitely injected some energy into this team. But also one of the things that I'm seeing from this team that I haven't seen in a very long time, maybe since Sean Thornton was around, was just their willingness to get aggressive and physical playing hockey. And now the Bruins have, for a while been one of the the smaller teams in the league. And because of that, there hasn't been a lot of fighting going on. But you have people like Tenorti, who's just willing to put himself out there because he knows he's not a guy that's going to play every night. But you're going to go up against someone like Tom Wilson or Alexander Ovechkin and be like, I'll fight you. I really don't care who you are, what your status is in this league, because if you're going to keep playing this way against my team, and God knows, the Capitals have been playing relatively dirty for this entire season. Like, enough is enough, and we're going to stand up to you. And yes, we lost 8-1 to you last week, but we're going to prove to you that was a fluke and that we can still be one of the top teams in this division.
Yeah, I mean, it's positive. It's really positive to see like there's additions like Riley and especially Taylor Hall. Like,
yeah.
He has just as many goals with the Bruins as he had with the Sabres all season. It's like, where did
he
this
has more
come from?
now.
Yeah. And it's like, I know the kid was the number 1 pick ahead of Tyler Seguin back at many, many moons ago. And
I know,
I think it's great. Like, I think so many players, when they get a change of scenery, like, I also wonder if it's like, it's the Sabres, man, we suck. Like, why do I even care? Like, why should I even bother? Now it's all of a sudden you're on like a playoff team. It's like, oh, all right, now I can finally show. I mean, even like in that last game, in that 2-on-1, I mean, as a left wing, you're not really going to practice that. Andy Brickley said it on the Nesson broadcast. You're not practicing that. And then he defended it perfectly and just broke it up and was able to, start a rush up ice. And I just think that the intensity that you have from Taylor Hall and Riley, and I think those are 2 very good pickups that the Boston Bruins have made. And again, they're not a Stanley Cup team. There's no. If they get to the East Finals, I'd kind of be surprised at that point. But I mean, and I know everyone says that they're still a top team. It's like, no, you're still losing to Tampa. You're probably losing to Washington in a playoff series. You may be even losing to Pittsburgh in a playoff series. But I like what I see out of them so far. But again, if you can get that secondary scoring, if Taylor Hall can become that number 1 overall pick that the Oilers thought that they had and the Sabres thought that they had many years ago, they could make a run to the East Finals. Absolutely.
I think one of the things that me and John talked about leading up to the trade deadline, because obviously Taylor Hall was a name that was going around that the Bruins might actually target for a while before the trade deadline hit, was one of the things, like, Taylor Hall has been one of the most underperforming first round picks in a long time. So I think what's going on with Taylor Hall was that with all those, he's on every team that he's been on so far, he's had to be the guy that made the play all the time. On the Bruins, he doesn't have to be that guy. Patrice Bergeron is that guy. Brad Marchand is that guy. David Pasternak's that guy. So he can finally join a team where he doesn't have to carry all the burden on him. And I think with that extra weight lifted off of his shoulders, he's able to play his game the way he really wants to, and it's created success for him here so far.
And here's the thing too, that and I know you guys, I'm just taking a guess, right? But I'm going to assume that you two aren't the biggest Edmonton Oilers fans in the world.
Really not. No.
Will, do you know? I watch them every night.
Oh yeah. Well then,
Yeah.
John, you would know this, that I know we all make fun of like the Browns for being like a horribly run team. The Edmonton Oilers were 50 times worse of an organization. Okay. And then you brought in Peter Chiarelli, good friend Peter Chiarelli, that likes to just screw you with the salary cap. They are a horribly run franchise, and they destroyed Taylor Hall. So, and Mary's right now that he doesn't have to be the guy, but he's also expected to be the secondary scoring. What has everyone always said for the past several years with the Bruins? If you shut down that perfection line, they need secondary scoring. And now Taylor Hall is kind of expected to be that guy, or at least be a creator.
But he also, and that's having David Krejci as a center is going to, it's already improved Krejci's game as well, because he's been performing, not that David Krejci's been a bad player, and he has scored through the season, but, he wasn't playoff Krejci that we saw last year in the bubble, where he was literally the only person that could score a goal. So like Krejci has gone through so many different wings during his time with the Bruins, and almost all of them have failed at some point, and you've had to keep relying on the perfection line. This is kind of the first time you can see David Krejci kind of take a deep breath and relax a little bit, because he knows he has someone on the ice. And even with Craig Smith as well, he has people on the ice that he knows is, one, going to take advantage of an opportunity that he creates, and two, create an opportunity for him.
And let me ask you this. I know, Mary, you're a Bruins fan. Do you miss Zdeno Chara?
Nope. Not this season. I mean, as a person who, yes,
I mean, on the ice. I don't care about off the ice and the person on the ice.
Not at all. And even though they have had a lot of issues with injuries on defense this season, I don't think having Chara would have made that better. Having Krug probably would have made that better, but Chara, he barely moves, and he took 3 consecutive shots off the same foot for Washington a couple nights ago, and now is not playing anyways. So
I can't blame him for that.
Well, no, but I mean,
your foot probably don't work.
What I'm saying is he was so slow and ineffective already. I can't even imagine what something like that's going to do with him. I do not hold any ill will against the Bruins for moving on from him at all.
It was the right time to do it. I mean, he was with the Bruins 100%. For what, 10 years, over 10 years.
Yeah.
Let's turn to baseball now, as the Red Sox are looking like a real, I guess, top team in the MLB. Okay, well, going from the Man City hat to the hat from the Patriots Day Patriots weekend.
Don't get that wrong, John.
Oh my God, I almost just caused a Twitter war. But yeah, he went to that hat. I want to talk about baseball because it looks like this game is starting to gain a little bit of traction as far as popularity goes. MLB actually tweeted out some numbers that I think only came from them because it shows that they were doing good here. But from opening day through April 18th, fans watched 1.34 billion minutes of live games on MLB.tv. 1.34 billion. That's 12% more than last season's first 18 days and 43% more than 2019. But overall, what do you guys take, as you are the 2 big baseball fans out of the 3 of us? Is baseball starting to come back in popularity? Are we starting to see a little bit more growth, reaching out to some of the people that maybe they lost over the past few years?
Well, here's the thing. I'm sure it is, but I think the bigger thing is streaming is becoming bigger and bigger and bigger. And also, if you are a T-Mobile or Sprint customer, you get MLB.tv for free. So, which I am one of those customers. So it was cool to actually, I can pull up my phone every night and watch a few minutes of a game here, watch a few minutes of a game there, and I'll get like a notification like, hey, so-and-so is throwing a no-hitter. And I'm like, all right, I guess I'll tune into this and watch it on my phone. So we don't really know what the ratings were. I just know that the ratings on MLB TV are getting bigger. It doesn't, that may not necessarily mean that baseball is getting bigger. I mean, I'm pretty sure the Red Sox still aren't doing all that great on NESN right now, and the Bruins are still destroying them if they go head to head, and they usually put the Bruins on NESN Plus, which it feels like half the population of New England above the age of 70 can't find that channel anyways. So it's the fact that the Bruins still destroy you. I don't know if baseball is necessarily getting more popular. I just think that MLB TV is just more accessible now.
No, I agree. I would not like get too ahead of ourselves with these numbers. And like one of the things Brian mentioned, there have been 2 no-hitters already this year. And that's exciting. Like I don't normally seek out baseball games that are not the Red Sox, but if I see something like that, like, yeah, you want to see someone get their no-hitter. So that probably has a lot to do with the fact that, their ratings have gone up, and that's, I don't get San Diego games in my market 95% of the time, so I have to use MLB Network or MLB streaming to watch these games. And yeah, it's very suspicious that they have put out the streaming numbers but not the network numbers, because you're right, I don't think NESN's doing well. I mean, I'm sure they're doing fine because the Red Sox have gotten out to a better start than anyone ever expected them to this season, but it's not it's not like all of a sudden every single person in Boston's watching the Red Sox on NESN.
I think baseball is starting to make a little bit of a comeback here. And just from a marketing standpoint, look at some of the players that are in the top 10 as far as some of the most popular players. You don't have Mike Trout as the top player anymore. I think you look at players like Fernando Tatis, Ronald Acuna Jr. There are other players. I think you go to the Dodgers, look at Mookie Betts, and I guess you could say Justin Turner as well. But I think there's a more wide-ranging list of players that can market themselves. Look at the pitcher from LA.
Trevor Bauer.
Trevor Bauer. I mean, he walks off with a Conor McGregor walk. To me, I think players are starting to develop a little more of a personality, which we haven't seen, go back 5-10 years. It was the vanilla, hit the ball, look up at the sky, clap your hands, and go into the dugout. Now you're starting to see a little more talking among players. Tim Anderson, what was it, the marathon game, when he was moving around, you could hear him talking to Christian Vasquez as Vasquez tried to check on him in the first inning. I like that a little bit because you can hear a little more individuality from the players, which I think is crucial to develop your game. You're seeing it in the NBA, in the NFL, players marketing off their name, which is important for baseball.
The problem with that is, what I'm worried about is when the MLB stops letting baseball be fun again, because it happens all the time. We talk about these quote unquote unwritten rules of baseball, and there was a big problem with it last season when Fernando Tatis Jr. hit a grand slam, even though they were up by like 7 runs already, and it was like a 3-0 count or something like that. And we talk about, oh well, that's not how baseball is played. You got to be more respectful for baseball. Like, if you want the younger generation to continue watching baseball, you have to make it more interesting like that. I want to see your bat flips. I want to see you mouthing off to the pitcher and the pitcher mouthing off back to you. And I don't want to see pitchers getting suspended because they're mouthing off to a bench. Like, the MLB regulates what these players do so much, like individually, that it takes some of the fun out of the game. So if they stop doing that, then I would say, yeah, baseball's going to start slowly making a comeback in popularity.
And the big thing too, a few years ago, is the MLB with Ken Griffey Jr. started the let the kids play thing. And then I think a perfect example was the Fernando Tatis thing. It's like, look, it's 3-0. You're going to throw me a beanball down the middle of the plate. Sorry, I'm going to swing. I don't care if we're up by 1 or up by 100. Like, I'm swinging at that pitch. And then people are they're bastardizing him. It's like, what do you want me to do? Just let a meaty pitch go? And Tatis, as John said, is probably it's definitely one of the new faces of baseball right now. And two, like, in going to the ratings, I mean, I don't know if you saw any of that Padres-Dodgers series, but holy hell. Like, I had movement in my pants on both ends watching all of those games. Like, that was phenomenal. Like, I wish that could be the World Series, and obviously it can't. But if it's the NLCS, holy God. Like, I want that thing to go 100 games. Like, that was entertaining as hell.
I enjoy that the fact that we told Brian that this was a split, and he just like, I'm gonna take that as far as I fucking can.
Now, I will say that series, that was awesome to watch, and you have Don Orsillo, which makes it even better that you can listen to him.
Obviously, yeah.
But I think there's a little bit of a similarity between that series and you go back to the 90s with the Red Sox and the Yankees, where the Padres are the Red Sox and the Dodgers are the Yankees, because San Diego, they're not going to win the season series against the LA Dodgers. But you know what? They're going to go down swinging, literally, physically, whatever. But
figuratively, is that what you were trying to say?
Sure, we'll go with that one. I wasn't losing track of words, but that was an awesome series to watch. I know this upcoming weekend when they're on Sunday Night Baseball and they're on Friday and Saturday night, I'll be watching all 3 games there too, just to see what happens next. And that's what baseball needs to do. They need to continue working these rivalries here. Go back to the first day of the season when Nick Castellanos started mouthing off to the pitcher and you had a benches clearing situation. I'm not saying it's great to have benches clearing brawls, but you know what?
Shouldn't have got
drive up the intensity.
No. The dumbest suspension ever.
Yeah, I mean, it could very well be the new Red Sox Yankees, but we also heard that about Dodgers and Giants, and it got pretty heated for several years there, especially when the Giants went on their runs, winning the World Series every other year. Yeah. And now that the Red Sox Yankees rivalry is pretty much, I'm not going to say dead, it's dormant. I will say that it's definitely dormant, and that's thanks to the Boston Red Sox for being a trash organization for most of the past 20 years, even though they've won 4 World Series, but it's usually when they win the World Series, they're in last place for a couple of seasons. And then all of a sudden out of nowhere, they win the World Series. So like baseball definitely needs that rivalry going again. But now that the Red Sox are in first and the Yankees are in last, it's like, well, great, you can't even get a race out of these two now this year. Right. Maybe you will going forward, but like baseball needs this, right? And we thought we had it with the Reds and Cardinals for a few years too. Like they got into some Donnie Brooks as well. And then that kind of fizzled out. So now where everyone's trying to cling on to the Padres and the Dodgers, hoping that this becomes quite that rivalry. And if it does, great, because it was entertaining as all hell this week. And especially, John, you mentioned the local ties with Don Orsillo. And, I saw a lot of Red Sox fans with the tears. It's like, come on, please, Don, just come back. Like, Nessa, what are you doing? Yeah. But, baseball needs rivalries. And I think that hatred and that, that entertainment and that cockiness and that arrogance from players, I think that's what baseball desperately needed. That's why people loved it in the 80s and the 70s, because the players, even into the 90s, players desperately they genuinely did not like each other. And then as much as I love David Ortiz, he kind of started the buddy kind of baseball thing. Everyone wanted to talk to Poppy and be friends with him, and I can't blame him. I mean, he's such a lovable guy, but now you're starting to get some of that anger. I mean, we even saw it too, like Madison Bumgarner. You hit a home run off him and you pimp it off him, he's gonna throw a hissy fit. But he didn't mind throwing, giving shade right back at you if he struck you out. So it was great when you get some of that back and forth and not this lovey-dovey stuff.
And I also think 2 teams to watch out. I'm hoping, I really hope that these 2 teams end up just battling all season, is the Astros and the A's, because now that we actually have fans back in the stadium, and this is, for the first time really since the Astros were exposed, in full about their cheating, those A's fans, in their first, they made it so we still are pissed at you. This may have happened in 2017, and that's 4 years ago now, but this is the first time we've been knowledgeable about what you've been doing, and we've been in this stand. So I hope with the additions of fans being there, it kind of eggs on these players to become more aggressive against each other.
And another thing too is the fact that, Mary, you're a Red Sox fan, but you want to see the Astros and the A's and the Padres and the Dodgers. And I want to see another team. I want to see the Brewers. I want to see the Milwaukee Brewers do stuff too. And I think that's a big thing too for baseball, is fans that are not from those markets want to watch these other teams play. I think that's what's so successful about the NBA is, you have people from Boston that want LA to do good because they want LeBron to do good. They want the Nets to do good because of, Durant, and maybe not Kyrie if you're a Celtics fan, but you want these other franchises to do good because you kind of have these interests. I'm the same way. I'm big on the Padres this year. I'm big on the Brewers, right? I want to see them succeed. I'm always going to choose the Red Sox number 1, but I'm always going to follow the Padres. I'm going to follow the Brewers, and even the Minnesota Twins too. They got quite the team. There's so many teams that you want to do well and that you have interest in. I think that's going to be huge for baseball, because I think it's I think the NFL really pioneered this too when they had that NFL Red Zone where it's like, I don't
Yeah.
really need to watch a single game. I just need to watch like certain plays and certain players. And I think fantasy sports have definitely have been a huge thing. And oh, by the way, the biggest thing that we've seen in the past few years, you can now gamble in several states now instead of in Las Vegas. And there's people like me on my Twitter always saying, hey, Charlie, can we please get this in Massachusetts? I'm sick of going down to Twin River to place my bets. I just want to do it from my living room couch, man. I just want to do this so badly. And now you have New York that can gamble. You have Connecticut. You have Rhode Island. You have New Hampshire. It's like, come on, Charlie, like get on this. You have New York, for God's sakes. New York can gamble. Why can't we get it in Massachusetts? So now I think sports gambling has been a huge thing now in getting popularity in sports up.
Yeah. I agree.
And
100%.
DraftKings does sports books too. Just throwing that out there.
Hey, I'm not throwing DraftKings out there, but like I'm just saying, like I think sports gambling has been huge. Sports betting has been huge for all these sports too.
Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Single day fantasy sports, beautiful idea for Major League Baseball.
That's going back to our original topic. That's one of another thing that European football has against American football and other American sports, the fact that you can bet in the stadium.
Yes.
You can't drink. You cannot drink, but you can bet in those stadiums.
Mm-hmm. And like that way. And the NBA, I wouldn't be surprised if the NBA gets to that because the NBA is like, go for it. Yeah, you want to get? Yeah, who cares? And the NFL just announced the partnerships with DraftKings, FanDuel, and MGM, Caesars, one of those sports books. And like I wouldn't be surprised. Like in Gillette Stadium, like there's a DraftKings lounge inside Gillette Stadium. All right, so seriously, I would not be surprised if there's going to be sportsbook inside of stadiums. And I think the NBA is really like, we don't care. Go ahead, gamble. We want you to do that because we want you to come in here and spend money anyways.
Right.
I think I saw San Antonio was one of the first teams that was really interested and started talking with the NBA about it. So,
well, Texas doesn't care about rules with anything. So go for it.
Yeah,
we've learned that. Finally, how important is it for the Red Sox to be so good early in the season with the fact that the Bruins and the Celtics are going to be playing into June and July? We talked in years past about the Red Sox being able to kind of hide under the Bruins and the Celtics, but this is the first season in a couple of years where they can have fans in Fenway Park. I'd imagine it's really important, not just for the ticket sales, but also for viewership and also for the ownership wanting to try and reclaim their spot at the top of the ownership chain. I'd imagine it's very important for the Red Sox to be good this time of the year. I mean, obviously you hope for them to be good all year long, but I think it's really important right now for the team to be doing pretty good with the Celtics and Bruins getting set for their playoff chase.
I think it's incredibly huge because how many times have we seen the Red Sox, especially, well, I'm going to get the month wrong because I know they started in July, but like how many times have we seen the Red Sox suck in April and people go, all right, we don't have a baseball season, so I don't need to bother to watch them for the rest of the year. And now all of a sudden they have a good April. And it's like, okay, like, let's see what this team is made of. And then, if they can continue it into May, into June. And I think too, like you said, John, the Celtics and Bruins are going to be done in June. And can the Red Sox keep this momentum going? And I think it's absolutely huge because, if you have a slow start, it's like, okay. And 2011, they had a slow start. They were the best team in baseball in between the months of April and September. And, we don't need to go on what happened in September of 2011 with this, with that Red Sox clubhouse. But it's absolutely huge because, in 2019, bad year, 2020, bad year. And now in 2021, it's like, okay, now do we have another roster here? Do we have a chance here for the Red Sox and make something special happen?
Yeah, I worry about it only because I feel like this Red Sox team is going to be could be one of those teams that gets out to a really hot start and then just kind of deflates at the end of May, and we see the Red Sox that we were expecting going into the season. The bats especially are so hot right now that it's almost like insane to think about them keeping up the level of offense that they have now, and they could even that out but still be winning a lot. But you're right, I think it's important to do it now because. And not for nothing, and the NHL is obviously out of the four big sports has always been kind of the lowest interest level. But in Massachusetts, there's really nothing better than playoff hockey, and that's what people are going to be watching. And you even said it yourself, Brian, that the Bruins are still, despite the fact that they're being bumped to NESN Plus, are still have more ratings right now than the Red Sox do. And I know personally, like last night I was watching the Bruins game, but the Red Sox game between periods. And then after the Bruins game ended, I finished the Red Sox game. So, as long as they keep enough interest that people are maybe watching both of them at the same time, that'll be helpful for them. I don't see them being watched more than the Bruins until the Bruins are done playing. But, it would be helpful for them if people were interested enough to take that time to agree, like, oh, well, we're in a commercial break. Let's see what's going on at the Red Sox game.
And I think too, like Nesson does do that. I mean, and I know once the Bruins, if they get into the postseason, they'll flip that, they'll put the Red Sox on Nesson Plus, but then they have those awkward crossovers where Jeremy Remy's talking to Andy Brickley, and there's no chemistry whatsoever, and it's great TV because you're like, oh, this is just getting cringy. But you're right. I mean, the Bruins are going to have more ratings. The Celtics are going to have more ratings, especially in the early part of the season. When they're done, everyone's going to be focusing on the Red Sox. And I think it was huge if they have a good start to the season that people are still going to want to tune in the middle of the season.
Yeah. Yeah, because you need to be able to remember that the Red Sox are still playing after all those games, after all the playoff series are done.
And I think if either the Celtics or the Bruins make a really deep playoff run, like get to the championship series, I said if
I wouldn't be bet on either one of those teams making it to the championship series.
I'm just throwing out there, if it happens, then you're talking about them playing into July, and then you have the 4th of July and people really chewing out of sports. Plus, then you have the Patriots eventually.
Don't the finals end towards the end of June?
Well, I don't know, because the regular seasons end in the middle of May now. So
the NBA did start late this year.
Yeah, and so the problem with they just bumped back the end of the regular season for hockey, and I am dreading watching playoff hockey in goddamn July. The ice is going to be terrible.
Yeah, I'm sure the ice in like every city is going to be phenomenal.
It's going to be terrible. Absolutely insane. Oh, I hate summer hockey. They tried to do it last year and it didn't work.
Wow. All right. So finally here, I did want to bring up a little game here. For Mary, because we know how much of a NFL draft guru she is.
No, that's not fair. I don't know anything about the draft.
Well, here's the thing. One of the answers we already talked about during the show. So this comes down to whether or not you paid attention.
Did Mary pay attention? That's the game.
Oh, well, the answer is always no.
Especially when it's
John, what's happening to you? Oh, there you go.
I went away for a little bit. Mm-hmm. All right, so let's start off with Jalen Waddle. Brian, I already knows the answer to this one, but Jalen Waddle is the projected 7th overall pick. He's a wide receiver.
Okay.
Did he go to A, Ohio State, B, Alabama, C, Georgia, or D, Northwestern?
Oh, the Northwestern one.
The name does sound familiar. And I know Devontae Smith was a wide receiver on Alabama, but I also know that there was a second really good wide receiver on Alabama. So I'm going to say it was Alabama.
Wow. How about that? She got one so far.
Well, it's because I kept pointing to the right answer.
What do you mean you're pointing to the right answer?
You said B, Alabama. So I just kept pointing to D.
Unbelievable.
I thought you were scratching your head. I was not paying attention.
Oh, this is garbage. All right. All right. We'll go to Zach Wilson here, quarterback, projected 2nd overall pick. Mm-hmm. A, Michigan, B, Oregon, C, BYU, D, Florida.
It was C, BYU, because I watched BYU's first game of the season and thought, I want this kid on the Patriots next season. And then he was like so good that he's out of the reach of the Patriots now.
All right. So now Mary's starting to get some momentum here.
2 for 2.
I know. Right. I followed Zach Wilson. That was like BYU was the only team I actually actively watched all their games this season.
All right. Asante Samuel Jr., cornerback.
Oh, okay.
Did he go to A, Florida State, B, Alabama, C, Penn State, D, Ohio State? I believe the son of former Patriots player Asante Samuel.
Okay,
you got that right.
So now I'm thinking, all right, so I've narrowed it down to 2 because I remember us talking about a really good defensive player from Penn State at the beginning of the show. But I also know that Belichick was very interested in some defensive players in Florida. So I think it was Florida.
Wow. Forget Mel Kiper and Todd McShay. Mary knows her college athletes.
Yeah, I guess so. Better than I thought. Or you're just giving me easy questions, which is also possible.
Well, I thought Samuel was going to be a little bit of a curveball here. But
well, there you go. I remember them talking about that on Zolak and Bertrand, that he was interested in cornerbacks.
So what college did he go to?
Florida, right?
Wrong.
Oh, that's Florida a half State. Answer.
Florida State.
I mean,
Don't mix those two up with people down there. Oh, you'd be killed.
I know. It was Florida State. Sorry.
Next up, Ian Book, a quarterback, projected 338th player on the draft list. Where did he go?
Without giving the options, do you know the school?
Yes, Notre Dame. We talked about it for like you were very adamant against Ian Book.
Maybe he's been paying attention here.
And you said it had nothing to do with
anything.
Notre Dame. It had solely to do with Ian Book.
Just because we talk about it.
The BC Notre Dame game.
Just because we talk about it doesn't mean she paid attention. Just remember that. Next up, in the final one, Dwayne Johnson Jr., a safety.
Like The Rock?
Maybe it's a Rock Jr. Dumb Rock, maybe.
The Rock Jr., the Pebble.
Did he go to San Diego State, Miami?
Right, so, wait, what was his position again? Sorry, I cut
safety.
You off. Okay, safety. Got it.
Okay. Is he a safety at San Diego State, Miami, LSU, or Boston College? He's a 406th player on the eligible drafted players list. So
I feel like you just threw Boston College in there as an option for Brian's benefit.
He's a guess. I have to.
I'm going to say Miami.
Well, you got 4 out of 5. San Diego State. A lot better than I thought you were going to be.
Fair enough. I knew it wasn't BC because I feel like I would have been able to tell by Brian's reaction to his name.
See, I was going to try and give you a hint and just say like Ron Burgundy and see if that was a good enough hint.
No, it would have been better if you said Don Arcillo because obviously he's an icon.
Well, because I wanted to do like the Ron Burgundy is legendary. San Diego means So,
yep.
But I just didn't know
Fair
if that was
enough.
going to be a hint.
I would have got it if you said that.
Oh, Mary goes 4 for 5. She kind of knows about draft prospects. We'll see who gets drafted and where they go. Brian, thanks for joining us. You do host the What's This podcast. So what's this?
Well, that's exactly what it is. What's this? So it's my friend Christina and I, and we were at the local watering hole and we said, hey, you know what? You know what this world needs? This world doesn't have enough podcasts. So we're going to give the world a podcast. So you can follow us on Twitter at what's this _pod. It's I think our Twitter bio has it's perfectly said that this is the podcast that no one wanted and it's here. And so what we do is we kind of look at some current events and just kind of give our takes on it. There's really no, I shouldn't say flow, but there's no structure to it, I guess. So we'll talk about things that we see that are interesting. We'll just talk about it. I'm going to try and get her more into sports. And this is going to be cool for you people. I suggest that you get into it. She's going to get me into the world of the anime. So I am. Oh, come on.
Wait,
I've been watching some.
I literally have every single one of my friends has been trying to get me into anime, except for the two of you, for like 10 years now. So the fact that you're now saying this makes me so angry.
Now I'm confused about one thing.
What?
I know your brother. He hasn't been able to get you into anime.
Well, no. So like when I was younger, I watched I didn't watch multiple animes. I watched one called Dragon Ball Z. What?
Okay.
Well, we all watch Dragon Ball Z.
Yeah, that's probably the most popular anime out there is Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z.
Pokemon, isn't that technically anime?
Yeah, it's technically anime, I guess.
Right,
but
that's the only anime I've ever watched.
Yeah, not even Digimon.
Well, I mean, my brothers watched it. I wasn't really my thing.
But like she kind of over quarantine took a liking into anime, and so at the end of the show, we each give each other a show to watch. And the very first anime she gave to me was awesome. I loved it. It's called Jujutsu Kaisen. I would suggest that you guys watch it. It is phenomenal. Great show. It's on HBO Max. If you have HBO, it's I'm guessing you don't, but
I do. I
I
told John the other day I was going to give him my login. So what were you going to watch? Oh, for Space Jam.
Yeah,
Space. You haven't seen Space Jam?
No, the second
Space
one.
Jam.
Obviously, we've seen Space Jam.
Oh, well, John doesn't watch movies, so.
Obviously, he's seen Space Jam though. His only interest is basketball.
Obviously, and Bugs Bunny. Obviously.
Yeah, but yeah. So and then she gave me a couple other animes, and what we do is we'll rate the shows that we do. We do a little review. I watch like the first 4 or 5 episodes. I'm not going to make them watch the entire show. So. I gave her Eastbound and Down, if you've heard of that show, for Kenny Powers, the former baseball player. Very raunchy comedy, John, on HBO. Hysterical. And then I gave her Cheers. She really liked Cheers. Yep. Yes. And then the last one I gave her was Ted Lasso. But we aren't going to do a podcast this week because the day we normally do it is her birthday, so we're going to go out for that. She gave me, like I said, Jujutsu Kaisen, which is actually one of the more popular animes out there right now. Gotcha. Then she gave me Death Note and One Punch Man. So
all right, so Death Note and One Punch Man, I recognize the names of as things that have been recommended to me in the past that I've never seen.
Yeah, I would suggest them. I mean, Death Note is kind of but One Punch Man, that's good. Jujutsu Kaisen,
I have to read
that's good.
Subtitles, do I?
Well, if you have Hulu, you can watch One Punch Man in English, and HBO has the first 20 episodes of Jujutsu Kaisen in English. Because I don't read it. I do the dub. I don't do the sub.
Right. Yeah.
Brian can't read words on screens. We've learned that in the past.
You should coin that phrase. I like that. I don't do the dub. I do the sub.
Except I flip.
You
that.
said it the other way. Other way.
I said be a dub above.
I mean, I'm just impressed that Brian keeps thinking of these shows in local watering holes. The podcast. This is how Out of Bounds started.
Brian does his best thinking at the local watering holes.
Yeah. Oh, but so here's the thing too. Like, so we also do like the whole thing about what's this is like we'll find some mostly on social media and we'll like ask each other like what's this? What's your opinion on this? So the very first one, I'll actually I'll tell you guys about the very what?
Are you gonna spoil the episode for us?
Well, the episode 1's been out for 2 weeks, so I mean, kind of on you if you didn't watch it. Thanks for my fans out there for watching. You guys are good friends.
Do you watch this show? Do you listen to this?
Oh. He does.
Yes, I'm the one that like
he
texts you.
critiques us constantly.
Yes. Anyways, so that's because I'm your friend, but I guess you're not mine. Whatever. I'll remember that when I get
I'll
famous.
Watch it later. I promise.
By the way, my podcast so far has made 4 cents. So watch out.
I know. Okay. I keep meaning to do the ad reads and I keep forgetting. I'll do them this week. I'll do it.
So the very first like what's this that we did was and I want to get your opinion on this. I want you guys to know. All right.
Okay.
Because like we'll have to get you guys on the podcast too.
Mm-hmm.
I saw this on Twitter and it was tweeted out by the official Bud Light Twitter account. And it was you guys fans of seltzers at all? I hate seltzers.
I drink them constantly.
Okay. So John, how about you? Seltzer fan?
Like, are we talking Polar Seltzer, Bud Light Seltzer?
Just talking like any alcoholic seltzer. Truly, White Claw, Bud Light, Miller.
Not really. No, I'm a big seltzer guy.
Of course. Okay, yeah, I hate seltzers.
The existence of seltzer, you'll be happy to know, the two of you especially, has made me kick my hard alcohol habit. So I haven't. So those have been like so much. Those have like saved my ass so many times.
And we know how Mary behaves on that hard alcohol.
Yes, we do.
Anyways, so I'm pretty sure this was an April Fool's thing because, like, when I brought it up to my co-host Christina, she's like, "I could see the Photoshop right away." And I was like, "Oh, damn! I didn't even see that." But it was Bud Light pizza flavored seltzers.
That's gross.
It had extra cheese, pepperoni, anchovies, and veggie. And I was like,
gross.
"This no." I was gagging. I was like, "Oh!"
And you're like a pizza guy.
Yeah. The only good pizza flavored thing is pizza.
Right. 100%. The worst thing in the world are pizza flavored Pringles. I hate those.
Pizza flavored goldfish are good though. I will say that.
No.
Yeah, they are.
No.
And then in episode 2, we brought up the Red Sox Patriots Day thing. We talked about that.
Sure. Yeah,
and
that makes sense.
The last episode is there's this channel called Buzzer, which just shows like old game shows from like 30, 40 years ago.
Yes, we know that because me and John watch that channel eating lunch at BTV all the time.
Oh, well, so like there was this advertisement, I guess, for this product called the Liberty Lift, which is, do you know the Liberty Lift?
Yeah. So you're going to install one in your home?
No, well, no, you don't install it. So yeah, so you don't know what it is. You're thinking of the chairlift thing.
Oh, okay.
No. The Liberty Lift is like, it's like this ball with like handles on both sides and two people are supposed to hold on to it to help each other out of a chair. And I was like, what in the world are you showing me?
We need to buy one of those for Jeff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, we just kind of poke around things on, and then we do like weird, like get to know you questions, but not like, even though she kind of asked these in the last episode, but we don't want to be like, what's your favorite color? We'd be like, would you rather take on like 100 duck-sized horses or one whatever? Like,
right,
like weird questions like that. So, we just kind of have fun, just shoot the breeze with each other and not force our opinions on you. We avoid politics at all costs.
So do we.
Yeah. No politics. That's how Outbound has been for 10 years. Mm-hmm. We're good with our dozen or so listeners. So
yeah. And you can get What's This on any of your podcast sites except for Apple Podcasts. We're not on there yet, but we're on Spotify and Anchor and all that.
Can I just give you a suggestion?
Oh, go ahead.
Make sure it's not on Apple, because Anchor just emailed me last week saying that we were on Apple, but we've been on Apple Podcast since the second week that we uploaded it to Anchor.
Oh.
So if you go on to, like, on that thing where it's like it shows you the links to all the places.
Yeah.
If you go to Google, it actually says iTunes when you click on it.
Oh.
So check that. You might be on Apple Podcasts.
Well, damn.
You learn something new every day.
And despite the fact that we only have like 30 followers on Twitter, we'll be sure to advertise your podcast.
Oh, cool. Because I have 9. I haven't quite got to double digits yet.
Yeah, well, there you go. I think I followed you guys.
All right. So that's What's This? And this has been Out of Bounds. We'll talk to you next week.